The Bible tells us to love God with our entire being, and that includes our minds. But what does that really look like day to day? Well, today we're digging into a really powerful idea that the Christian life is actually a battle, and it's won or lost right between your ears. So let me ask you this straight up. Is your mind a friend or is it a foe? Because the core idea we're unpacking here is that your answer to that question could literally shape the entire direction of your spiritual life. And this quote right here, it really gets to the heart of it. This isn't just about feeling good or trying to have positive thoughts. The whole argument is that real, lasting spiritual change, it's not possible if your mind isn't being actively, intentionally cultivated and renewed. So this brings us to our first big idea, which completely reframes the mind. It's not some quiet library for peaceful thoughts. No, it's a dynamic battleground, and it's where the most important fights actually happen. You see, this draws a really sharp contrast. While some people might focus on emotion or maybe on rituals, the argument here is that biblical Christianity, at its core, is a religion of truth. It's all about what you know and what you believe, and that requires some serious mental engagement. So when you hear the Bible talk about the fiery darts of the enemy, it's not always about some big external crisis. More often than not, these are thoughts just launched directly into our minds. Thoughts of accusation, thoughts of doubt, or temptation. And they're all designed to get a foothold. Okay, so if the mind is a battleground, then you're going to need a battle plan, right? Well, thankfully, the Apostle Paul gives us this powerful metaphor, an analogy that lays out a crystal clear strategy for this exact fight. Yeah, in 2 Corinthians, Paul uses the language of ancient warfare to describe this whole mental battle. He doesn't just say, hey, think better thoughts. He actually gives us a strategic 3-stage plan for how to win. Now, the very first step is you've got to identify the enemy. And in this analogy, the targets are called fortresses. Now, these aren't just random bad thoughts. They are fortified, dug-in patterns of thinking. It could be a fortress of cynicism, a fortress of insecurity, or maybe that habit of negative self-talk that just constantly pushes back against what God says is true. So now we get to the good stuff, the practical application. How do you actually tear down these fortresses and start reclaiming the territory of your mind? Let's walk through the plan. The plan itself unfolds in 3 really distinct stages. First, you destroy the enemy's strongholds. Second, you take every single thought captive. And third, you post a guard to maintain control. All right, let's break each of those down. Stage 1 is aggressive. This is about going on offense. Just like an ancient army had to first smash through the city walls and topple the watchtowers, this step means you have to actively identify those fortified wrong ideas and then systematically dismantle them with truth. It's a full-on assault. But, hey, just because the walls are down, the work is not over. Not even close. Stage 2 is the cleanup operation. Every single inhabitant of that city, every assumption, every little stray idea has to be taken captive. The key thing here is that there's no neutral ground. Every thought is either for the truth or against it. And this perfectly illustrates the final and maybe the most crucial step. A successful army doesn't just conquer a city and then walk away. No. It sets up guards. It stays vigilant against any lingering enemies who might try to retake it. Well, the exact same thing is true for our minds. Without constant vigilance, those old ways of thinking can just creep right back in. So why does all this matter so much? Because the battle of the mind is never just an internal thing. It's made really clear that undisciplined thoughts will always lead to an undisciplined life, and that brings with it very real pain and very real consequences. Okay, so that's the battle plan. But any good general knows an army is useless without a strong supply line. And that's what this next part is all about. The daily habits, the disciplines that fortify the mind and keep this renewal going for the long haul. We live in an age of constant information overload, right? So we have to be super intentional about what we're feeding our minds. To cut through all that noise, we need a proactive intake of truth. That means things like daily scripture reading to set our compass, memorizing verses so we have truth ready in a crisis, listening to solid teaching to go deeper, and being active in a church community that reinforces all of it. Now, when we talk about meditation here, it's really important to get this right. We're not talking about emptying your mind. It's the exact opposite. We're talking about filling it. It's the discipline of just mulling over the truth, turning it over in your mind, looking at it from all angles, and really thinking through how it applies to every single part of your life.
And this all leads us to a final, really blunt principle that governs this entire process. It's a simple idea you've probably heard before, but it is absolutely central to winning the battle for your mind. Think about it this way. Your mind is on a diet, whether you realize it or not, and this chart just lays it out perfectly. What you take in directly determines what comes out. If the intake is truth and scripture and godly counsel, the output is going to be peace, self-control, a renewed life. The connection is direct, it's unavoidable.
And what that means is we have to get brutally honest about our media diet. Our default setting as humans is, well, it's self-gratification. So the crucial question we have to ask is this. Is the media I'm consuming, the shows I watch, the music I listen to, the feeds I scroll, is it feeding that default selfishness, or is it helping me renew my mind? At the end of the day, it really comes down to this simple diagnostic tool. If the output of your life, your words, your actions, your attitude, is basically garbage, then the very first place you have to look is your mental intake. You've got to examine what you're feeding your mind. And this brings us to one final critical question to leave you with. Every single day, you are a builder. You are constructing walls around the city of your mind. So, what are you building today? Are they fortresses of fear and doubt, or are they fortifications of truth, guarded with vigilance? The choice really is yours.